Good day, everyone. We're going to give it just 1 minute and we'll start at 12:01. Here we go. Hey, everyone. Welcome to our monthly Mint Group webinar Wednesday. It is really great to see you here, whether you're joining with your first cup of coffee or your third. We don't judge here. But just a quick heads up, the session is being recorded, so you can revisit it later and share it with your team. All right, so today's topic is one that I'm really genuinely excited about, building your own AI Copilot with Microsoft Copilot Studio. Think of it as having a personal assistant who never calls in sick, works 24/7, doesn't complain about your coffee order. We'll look at the difference between generative AI and agentic AI and when to use which. Unpack what Copilot Studio actually does, walk through a few examples, and show you how it works with the Microsoft 365 tools you're already using. As always, drop your questions in the Q&A as we go, and we'll make sure to tackle them. But before we get into today's topic, we've got a quick poll for you, just to get a sense of who's in the room. It should come up on your screen, so just take a moment to fill that in, and it really helps us shape the conversation. So while you're busy with the poll, let me just get it off my screen on this side. I want to introduce our speakers for today. We'll get right into it. Joining us today are Henry Fourie, Head of Delivery, and Gideon Jacobs, our Head of Modern Workplace. And they both bring a wealth of experience and deep insight into helping organizations stay cutting edge in an ever-evolving digital landscape. So with that, over to you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Sue. As Sugeshni mentioned, Henry Fourie, Head of Delivery for our Mint Inland business, looking after specifically modern workplace, Azure and adoption and change management. And with me, Gideon Jacobs, which is from our coastal office, pretty much, I think, a similar portfolio to mine within our coastal office. Welcome, everybody. We look forward to taking you through what we've got to show you today. And yeah, let's get straight into it. Just from an agenda point of view, this is not going to be a presentation heavy session today. We're going to try and show you some actual practical hands-on demos. We're going to build an agent together, and we're going to show you one or two other agents that we've pre-built, but just to show you some of the capabilities that's available in the Copilot Studio low-code platform. So the first agent we're going to look at is a knowledge agent. Then we'll also show you a service agent that's got some integration into Zendesk. And then I'll hand over to Gideon to take you through an autonomous agent. And then we'll close off the session just talking about some of the challenges and limitations that you might face when you are building your own agents in Copilot. So as I said, we are focusing on the Microsoft platform here. Obviously, you've got the ability to build agents in some other platforms, but specifically today is around Copilot Studio, which is the tooling that Microsoft has made available to build these agents with. And the focus today is on low code. It is not a pro code session. So for those developers that may have joined the call, this is all low code. You don't need to be a developer to be able to build some of these agents. And through Copilot Studio, you can build from the simplest agents all the way through to very complex agents that may talk to other agents to get various tasks and automations done. Then, as Sugeshni mentioned, just generative AI versus agentic AI. These are sort of terms that have been thrown around and is quite a hot topic at the moment. And what's the difference? I think the one that we're all familiar with is generative AI, and that's really where the AI generates content on your behalf. You give it certain prompts and it can create a document for you. It can summarize text. It can create new images, but it's really all about creating new content. And on the other side, you get what is called agentic AI. And this is really where AI has got the ability to act autonomously, to reason, to make decisions, and to complete tasks on your behalf with or without user input. So it can be autonomous or it can be directed by human input. And it's important when building agents, and especially through Copilot Studio, is that you've got both of these AI technologies come into play. Generative AI, both from building your agent's point of view, but also from also used by your agent when it is actually answering questions that users might have. So let's have a talk just around how work is evolving. So the first phase, and generally this happens in different phases in organizations, but the first phase is generally where people start using AI as a digital assistant. It's one-on-one productivity. If you think about Copilot, ChatGPT, all of those sort of things, you're using it to make your life easier, to make you more productive, to streamline the sort of things that you need to do on a daily basis. If we then move to the second phase, this is where you're really starting to employ agents to form part of the team in the organization. They're still directed by a human, but they can start completing some tasks on behalf of a human, and they form part of the greater team. And then the final phase is where the agents are almost doing everything, and they're just being supervised by humans. So what they call agent or human-led agent teams, where an entire process end to end is actually done by the agent, and a human is just providing the oversight, elevating the work that the human is responsible for, so that they can focus on the more creative side of things. So what is Copilot Studio? Copilot Studio, like I mentioned, is the tooling that Microsoft makes available for us to be able to build these agents. It allows us to also extend some of the existing agents that Microsoft has put in place, things like SharePoint agents. You can go and customize those and extend them further, but it is a low-code environment, really to a large extent, sort of almost a drag and drop canvas where you configure certain triggers and actions and tools to be able to do certain things. It does use AI and natural language, so you can first of all describe what your agent needs to do in natural language, and then it also uses natural language processing when people ask questions to your agent or your chatbot to be able to do certain things or get certain information. Just touching on some of the agents, and like I said, they can range from very simple agents all the way through to quite complex and advanced agents that can autonomously complete certain actions. So first of all, we're talking about retrieval agents. This is really sort of almost Q&A type of agents where you make it available and people can ask questions and it'll retrieve information, be it product specifications, be it if it's from a HR point of view, maybe it is to ask questions about internal company policies, all of those sort of things, but it really just provides information back to the user. The next sort of evolution is what we call a task agent. This is where you can ask the agent to go and do certain things on your behalf. And we're going to show you an example of that with, for example, Zendesk, where you can ask the agent to log a ticket on your behalf, and it will integrate into the backend system and do all the necessary things for you, where you, through natural language, can interact with the agent. And then lastly is autonomous agents, where it doesn't need a human to initiate any action. It can work on triggers, something like an email coming in, and it can automatically then summarize the email, maybe look up the details of whoever the person was that emailed in your CRM system, and complete certain tasks for you autonomously without any human intervention. So what are the key features? I think we've spoken about the fact that it's got a natural language interface, and I'll show that in the demo how we can describe what we want our agent to be able to do. You can integrate knowledge and data, so that the agent knows how to respond to people and that is responding with the right factual information. You can point it to documents, you can point it to a SharePoint site, maybe some files sitting in a OneDrive, and even into custom databases and systems, utilizing a lot of the connectors that you are already familiar with from a Power Platform perspective. It's also got action capabilities, so the ability to be able to go and do things through the same sort of connector interface, but also calling Power Automate flows that you may have already developed in your organization straight from the agent, leveraging the same Power Platform connector capabilities. And then it allows for multi-channel deployment. So by default, it's easy to deploy within the Microsoft suite, so be it Teams or within M365 Copilot, but you can also deploy it to a website. You can deploy it into a custom app or into a mobile application that you might be developing. So there's various options and various different channels through which you can deploy these agents once you've built them. So the core capabilities, just from a natural language perspective, at the moment it leverages the GPT-4 model. Soon to be available is the GPT-5 model that was recently launched, and that is the ability to understand what you are trying to do without us having to necessarily build all the rules into the chatbot. Those of you familiar with Power Virtual Agents, you had to do a lot more work for the chatbot or the agent to understand what it is you were trying to do. With the natural language understanding and the generative AI capabilities, a lot of that is taken care of for you. It's also got built-in orchestration and reasoning, so it can, without you having to tell it, it can figure out what it needs to do. And then, as I mentioned, it's a low-code authoring environment. You don't need to be a developer. You can really start getting anybody in the organization building these agents to help them, help their teams, and help the larger organization to streamline and improve efficiency of internal processes. From a knowledge integration perspective, as I mentioned, you can put files into SharePoint libraries, OneDrive libraries. You can point it to a website, or if you already have a lot of information available on a website. It then indexes this information and grounds the answers that it gives back to the user based on the content sources or knowledge sources that you configure for your agent. It also importantly supports sensitivity labels. So if you've uploaded something into a SharePoint library where you've applied certain sensitivity and security permissions to it, when somebody asks a question to your agent, it will adhere to those labels and it won't divulge any information that it shouldn't, meaning that privacy or content classification carries through. And then I think we've touched on multi-channel deployment, the ability to deploy it into various different channels so that you can make it accessible to your users regardless of where they are working. From a data connectivity and integration point of view, there's two different areas here. First of all, there's from a data source perspective. So being able to connect to the various different data sources that you've got in your organization so that your agent is able to answer questions based on that information. And then there's also the ability to integrate into systems so that it can also push information out into systems and perform tasks on behalf of the user. As I mentioned before, Power Automate flows, fully integrated. You can call any of the flows that you've already developed and leverage a lot of the connectors that you've got available in the Power Platform within your agent already. And well, I'll show you a little bit of this, but you can create complex multi-step agents, agents calling other agents to complete certain actions. So it really can become quite a complex and fully automated process once you start developing some of these agents. Some of the common use cases that you've got, there's obviously many different use cases. I'm not going to go through all of these. But I think as you start building these agents yourself, as you start getting familiar with the capabilities that you've got, and as Microsoft also enhances some of the capabilities, really the sky's the limit in terms of the types of processes and things that you can start automating with these agents. And as the maturity of your user base and the people in the organization also improves, there really is, like I said, the sky's the limit in terms of what you can put together. Okay, and I think we're going to do another poll just quickly before we switch over to a live demo. If you can maybe just let me know how we're going on the poll, and when everybody's ready, then I can start from my side.
You can go ahead, Henry. Poll's done.
Okay, great. So where do you start? So you go to copilotstudio.microsoft.com and pick the environment that you want to build your agent in. And this is the landing page that you are presented with. So we're going to start, and we want to actually create our first agent here. What we're going to create is an agent that allows us to find information about products sold by a fictitious company called Contoso. So you can either start straight from the landing page, or you can click on to the create button and click on new agent. It's the same sort of experience. But the first step is let's describe our agent. And this is where we use natural language so that Copilot can actually help us create the framework for our agent. So from our side, it's an agent to assist customers with finding detailed information about the products that Contoso sells. And you'll see here on the right-hand side, it is now starting to build up some of the instructions that we want to give our agent. So let's give our agent a name. I'm happy with that name. Okay. And now we can give a little bit more information about the types of information we want this agent to be able to give back to our users. So just going to put that in. So we want to provide stock availability, pricing information, product features, product specs, categorize some of our information. So we want to provide all of that back. And the other important thing, because we are talking about generative AI, I also want to make sure that it doesn't make any of its own assumptions. Okay. And I'm actually going to upload just an Excel spreadsheet with some product information. So I am not going to add anything else. And we are ready to click the create button. What it's now doing in the background, based on some of the questions and answers that we've given, it is creating our first agent for us so that we can carry on configuring it a little bit further. At a moment. Okay, so this is the authoring canvas that you get. Just give a moment for this to load. Okay, so here you'll see all of the information I provided previously. Is our description of what the agent does. We wanted to use generative AI using the GPT-4 model by default. Instructions should come up shortly. The next thing you've got here is what knowledge sources should it use to answer questions. Do you want it to be able to search the web to find additional information, or when a question is asked that it can't answer from the knowledge source? Tools. This is really its ability to perform actions, and it does that through adding tools into your agent. Triggers. Gideon will cover that in a bit more detail when we talk about autonomous agents, but that's really how does your agent start doing its work? Does it talk to any other agents? And then what are the topics and some of the suggested prompts? Okay, it's taking a little while to load. I've actually got a pre-configured one. Let me maybe go into that one. Hopefully that's a little bit quicker. While we wait for that, just to show you the knowledge that it uses. So I've created a product catalog. Give me a moment, just finding that file quickly. This really is just a catalog of home appliance products. So it's got the product name, it's categorized them, it's got a model number, description, some of the key features, specifications, warranty, its price, and what stock levels we've got for that item. Not going to do that now, but you'll see pretty much the same agent we created, and I've actually added in a knowledge source here, just uploaded the file. Simple, you just click here, click on add knowledge. You can either specify a OneDrive or a SharePoint location, or you can upload a file. Okay, that file's already been added for us. This agent is a Q&A agent, so we're not adding any tools. It's not going to be able to do anything on our behalf for us. And then there's a whole set of default topics created for us. Some are just sort of custom topics, and then some are system topics. Okay, so let's actually go through just some of the other options that we've got here. We can view the activity. So what is our agent doing at the moment, or what has it done. We can see some of the analytics, how have people interacted with our agent. Okay, it's obviously a test agent, so not a lot of activity. And then from a channels perspective, which channels do we want to deploy our agent to? So these are some of the settings that we can set. There's also a settings tab here where you can go through some of the other details. Where we can configure sort of what model is it using. Like I said, at the moment, only the GPT-4 model is available. How should it respond to people when it is using generative models? What level of moderation do you want? Do you want to collect user feedback? Should it use general knowledge, use information from the web, etc.? So quite a few options that you can configure here for your agent. We're not going to go into all of these options now, but if you want to change, for example, your agent, have it available in a different language, you can go to the languages tab and add additional languages in here. Okay, but let's actually test our agent and see how it works. So first of all, I don't really know Contoso that well, so why don't we start off by just asking what product categories are there? You'll see here it shows an activity map for us so that we can see what the agent is doing. Here you can see it is busy searching through our catalog. And there we go. There are all the categories: fridges, dishwashers, ovens, washing machines, etc. Okay, but maybe we actually don't need those examples, so you can ask the question just in a slightly different way. If you just want a list of it. And then if we want to know specifically what smart home devices are there, there we go. And maybe we want to know, do you have any stock of that video doorbell? And we haven't configured any of the rules for this. It is using generative AI as well as agentic AI to do that sort of reasoning itself. It's searching through our knowledge source, and it's figuring out what it needs to do and what the user of the bot is looking for all by itself. And maybe just another example to show you the ability to reason is we can even ask us, what is your lowest price refrigerator? And it will figure it out based on the information that is contained in your knowledge source. And there we go. Lowest price fridge is our LG fridge. Okay, so next, if we want to publish our agent to Teams, just to show you that it's quite easy to make it available. You can either make it available with an M365 Copilot, or maybe you want it only as a separate app. So we can add that channel. And once we've got it available, we can edit some of the details. If we want to change maybe the color, we want to put our own little logo in. We can add our own logo. We can change things like the description. And then there's additional information. Who's the developer? If you're a partner and you're developing, you can put your partner ID in there so that you get the necessary recognition. Okay. And then we can publish our agent to make it available. It's so long. If we go back to Teams and we want to actually see what it looks like within Teams, just drag this across quickly so it gives you the ability. Close the window. Let me try and get that back. Go. We can add our agent. There we go. And we can start having a conversation. So similar to the way that we tested it, we can now start asking our agent specific questions. Okay. In the interest of time, I'm actually going to now just show you another type of agent that we have built. This is a pre-built one, so I'm not going to go through all of the details on exactly how to build it. But this one, the difference between this one and the agent that I've just shown you is that this one can actually interact with a backend system, in this case, Zendesk. So I've got a Zendesk instance here that we've created already, and I've built an agent to be able to actually interact with this. You'll see what you can do here. It can log new service tickets. You can update existing tickets. You can get a status update. And then I've just added in some knowledge sources as well to show you standard laptops that we provide at Mint, as well as how many of them are available. And I've split that over to two different knowledge sources to also show you that the agent is smart enough to be able to search across both knowledge sources and tie the two together. So if we start here, just to quickly show you, first thing I want to do is I want to log a new ticket. Okay, but first I have to say, well, what is this ticket about? And I've been having some issues with my external monitor. Because I work mostly from home, I want to log this as an urgent ticket. There we go. Ticket 59 has been successfully logged. It provides me with the details. If I go back here, you'll see external monitors on the way out. If I go into this ticket, and maybe I want to say, put it into a pending state. If I now go back to my agent, and it'll show me that that ticket has changed and its status is now pending. And you'll see what it is doing. So first there was the action where we logged a ticket, and then it is using one of the tools called get item. So just to show you quickly, I've added quite a few different tools here. Each of these does a different thing within Zendesk. the other important thing here is if I want to ask a question about all of the tickets that might be in the Zendesk system, but they are classified by organization. If you only have a get item or get items tool, it gives you back a GUID for the organization. So you actually have to make multiple calls to Zendesk to be able to get that information. But because you've configured it, and without having to configure any other types of rules, I can do things like ask the agent, give me a summary of the tickets per organization. And then you'll see here, it actually goes and gets the organizations first and then gets all of the items per organization. So you'll see there's for Contoso, there's their tickets, and there are the tickets for Mint Group. And just to show you also how it can integrate different knowledge sources. Like I showed you here, we've got actually two different knowledge sources. One is just a description of the different laptops and their specifications, and the other one is the stock available. But if I go here and I say, well, what is your most powerful laptop? You can see it's searching through both knowledge sources. And it gives me back an answer saying that it's the Creative Studio. And it will tell me that there's two items in stock. And that's it from my side, demonstrating just two different types of agents. One, just a Q&A agent, and how simple it is to actually create those agents, and how easy the natural language interface within Copilot Studio is. And then secondly, showing you just an agent that's got a little bit more capability, where it's got tools so that it can connect to a third-party system called Zendesk. And maybe just one other thing I can show you quickly is, instead of the generative AI figuring out 100% what it needs to do, I actually created a custom topic here, because when you log a new ticket, we need to know the title or the subject, the description, and what priority you want that ticket to be. So we can ask those questions through various different cards. You'll see here, you can also say that you want multiple choice options so that you can guide the user in terms of their response. Now I can build up the actual JSON that needs to go through to the tool, and then I can call that same create item tool that I've added in tools. And then the only other thing that I also do here is I can actually specify that an adaptive card is used to give the user a summary. You'll see that's this little adaptive card here that gives you, just in an easy way, a nice summary of the ticket details. That's it from my side. Over to you, Gideon.
Thank you, Henry. Sue, is there another poll we're going to do before we get going?
Do we have the presentation? Let me just check with Pranay.
I think there's one more, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, there is one more, but that will be
I think it's at the end.
Towards the end. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Let me just get my screen set up, and then we can get going. Great. So good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Gideon Jacobs. I work for our Coastal business, and I look after Modern Workplace, as Sugeshini introduced me this morning, or this afternoon rather. So I'm going to be covering autonomous agents, and then we're going to be jumping back to a few more slides. I promise it's not many. It's only like 4 or 5 slides before we wrap up. But before we jump into autonomous agents, Henry talked about retrieval agents, task agents, which requires human input and generative AI to then respond to the input or the prompts rather. Where autonomous agents are different is that they operate independently. And so you're not typing or asking it questions the way in which you want the way in which you would interact with retrieval and task agents. They are proactive and they automatically respond to signals across your business to initiate tasks, configure to react to events without human input. Also, autonomous agents are non-deterministic and able to produce different outcomes from the same initial condition. And you'll see now when we go into this agent that we've set up, and this is also a pre-built agent, just by the way, is that we are using the orchestration, which is important. So what Henry just demonstrated a few minutes ago is how you can navigate to specific topics using agents. So using orchestration, ChatGPT-4, which is the background, is the model, would respond on your behalf, and it would determine the correct response without you necessarily having to map it to specific topics. You can, however, set that up, and I'll show you in a moment how that can be done also. Cool. So let's take you through the demo and what we've prepared for the webinar. So we've created a product returns processing agent to assist with customer product return requests. So let's say you've ordered something and it's faulty for whatever reason. You now want to email this company or this person or this mailbox. And then this agent should be clever enough to go and query some source or a knowledge source for that matter, if we want to use the correct terminology. And then it should determine whether you are eligible for a return and then provide you with a meaningful response. So when I scroll down further on this overview page, you would see that what is, and I think Henry alluded to this earlier, is that with autonomous agents, it's key that you set up a trigger, because this is the event that happens before this agent wakes up, essentially. So what we've added in here is an Outlook trigger. And this trigger basically waits for an email to arrive in a specific mailbox. And then based on the subject line and the body of the email, it then interprets that information. And then it does the magic in the background and then respond back to the user. As part of this autonomous bot, you would also see a couple of tools that we have added in here. So firstly, we've got the send email connector, which some of you probably used when building Power Automate Cloud flows. So that email connector would send the email back to the individual to say that they are eligible for a return or not. And the body of that email will dynamically be constructed by this autonomous agent. There's also the get order flow that gets triggered depending on the trigger, or the trigger would trigger the get order flow. And the get order flow would then query the knowledge source, which is a database table in this case, to then get the order details. It would then send an email back to the person, and then it would go and update the order. There's also other functionality which you can include in a flow such as this. So as an example, if the order number doesn't match an order within your data source, then you can escalate this to a manager or someone within your team for approval. If the product is out of warranty, as an example, then that can get escalated to someone else for final approval before it gets sent back to the person, etc. But for now, we're just going to focus on the get order, and then we'll see if that order is a match and whether the customer is eligible for a return, and then we'll send the email back. Great. All right, so when Henry showed the Copilot Studio Builder, which is as part of that first demo where you basically instruct Copilot to build the agent for you, it then produced a set of instructions. Now, this can also be generated for you. However, it's of utmost importance that you focus on detailing these instructions as granular as you can, because it's using orchestration in the background, it's important that you provide the agent with as much information as you possibly can, in order for it to understand how it should flow and function in the background, and what it should do, and what information should get sent back to the client. So I'm not going to read through all of this, but just to show you that, we give it a meaningful instruction. These are the 4 key areas. It interprets and responds to customer returns, ensures satisfaction, enforcing company return policies, and that's why I mentioned the 30-day sort of warranty, unnecessary returns and reduce waste. That can go to someone for approval, as an example, as well as the escalation. Right. Then further down, you then provide it with instructions. It doesn't have to be in this specific layout. And what I would encourage everyone on the call is to go and find some examples on the internet as to how you can construct these instructions in a meaningful way. You can obviously also ask ChatGPT to assist you with that. But again, it's important that you spend some time in building out these instructions clearly. But what I do want to just show everyone on the call quickly is, as you build these instructions, like let's take this email as an example. If you press /, then you can then call other topics, other agents, or other tools for that matter within the same response. So your agent can be dynamic in that way. You can have multiple agents that can interact with one another. So if that mail gets triggered, you can call another agent that does something else in the background, etc. But this is just to show you that as part of your instructions, you can call your different tools that you have enabled, which are these ones here, those flows that we've talked about, and then the autonomous agent would process that accordingly. All right. So how does this work? We've got the instructions, we've got the knowledge source, which is a database table, we've got our tools, we've got our trigger, which is the email that comes in. This is not a generative AI chatbot, it's an autonomous chatbot. So this I'm actually just going to close for now, because this is waiting on an email to arrive. So let me just see. Great. So I've just pre-compiled this email. In the body, just said, hi there, just give an explanation of my order number, hasn't arrived, the mug is broken, the package was delivered on this date, and can you please advise on how I can return or replace or refund this item? And in the subject of the email, I've also put in the order number. So when I don't have to send an attachment, I'm just going to send it. And then if you give me one moment. That was actually very quick. Thank goodness. This mail has come in, as in like just now. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one. Return approved. Okay, I'm just going to show you this one rather. Don't want to waste your time in waiting for the emails. It can take a minute or so for the emails to arrive. This is a previous one which we've tested just before the webinar. So the agent would now go, it would check the orders table, it would orchestrate the logic in the background. And this is the dynamic email that the agent has now responded with to the user. So dear Gideon, thank you for your email. We're sorry, it's got my order number here. We're happy to approve and return your request. Please use the return address to ship the item back within 7 days. And as part of the instructions, we've also said that it needs to include the return address. Right, so as simple as that, the mail comes in, it uses the orchestration in the background, it follows the instructions, it connects to the various tools that we've included as part of this, and then it sends the email back to the user. Great. I'm not going to go into activity and analytics. I think, Henry, you've covered most of that. So I think what we can do is maybe just jump to the rest of the presentation. check if I believe. Cool. So let's talk about some of the challenges and limitations. As you can see, they're broken down into three buckets here: technical limitations, data and security, and organizational challenges. So integrating to legacy enterprise systems may pose integration complexity. If your legacy system or application is hosted on-prem, then you may want to explore other technologies such as desktop flows as an example, which forms part of the Power Platform ecosystem, to integrate or to retrieve the data and to return it back to your agent. There's also other mechanisms and ways in which you can connect to legacy enterprise systems. Should they have APIs available, you can set up what's called the data gateway and then connect to your legacy enterprise systems securely through an encrypted data gateway. So when you talk about usage quotas and performance constraints, it's important to understand that these are specifically tied to the licensing model that you're on. So they are defined as requests per minute or requests per hour, which all depends on the licensing tier that you are on. So a paid plan, as an example, includes 8,000 requests per minute per month. A trial or a developer plan includes 100 RPMs, which is requests per minute per month. And the pay-as-you-go is a consumption-based model. So with that, you can have thousands of those. In terms of performance, agents are influenced by several factors, and it's always a good practice to simplify your agent, start small, build on top of it, test it, and rather than having one large agent, be that a task agent, a retrieval agent, or an autonomous agent for that matter, try breaking them up into separate agents and rather call them. Otherwise, your orchestration is going to become very complex to set up over time. But rather start with one, and then if you run into issues with your testing, you can split it out. Almost like having a parent flow and a cloud flow in Power Automate. So agents built in Copilot Studio relies on Microsoft's built-in orchestration and GPT models hosted in Azure OpenAI. And these models you can't swap out or fine-tune, unfortunately, as part of Copilot. It's a software as a service product, and you select any one of those GPT models. For now, it's GPT-4, but if GPT-5 is available, then you can select that as well. And I think this is more just something to watch out for rather than a limitation. Is if you are using preview features, which you would see a lot in Copilot Studio. I mean, Microsoft continuously release new functionality and features. Just beware that you still may find little bugs and hiccups along the way. So maybe stay clear from them if you are building production-ready apps, or just use it with caution. And then the limited language support, which we're not going to go into much detail. Oh, sorry. Great. So data and security concerns. I think Henry did touch on this, so I'm just going to quickly run through this. I think what's of utmost importance is that you assess your data across your environments before you start building out production-ready copilots or agents, rather, using Copilot Studio, to ensure that you classify sensitive information, as Henry has mentioned, and to ensure that users can only access the information that they allow to see. Right. Otherwise, especially with with Papier, as we all know, I mean, your agents can expose confidential information which you don't want, and that can open a can of worms, to say the least. Then organizational challenges. We have, as with any new solution or system that you would implement, it's important to take the users through a change management journey, be that awareness, adoption, and obviously training. Always a good idea to start small and to scale. Maybe identify early adopters within your organization and to train them and to champion them to further the Copilot rollout and agent rollout within the organization. Okay, just in the interest of time, I'm just going to move on. Great, so performance metrics. There's always a good practice to have continuous improvement and feedback along the way. You can collect feedback from your users using ratings as part of your Copilot setup. There was that user feedback section that Henry has demonstrated, as well as surveys and other mechanisms in which you can collect feedback from your users. As you build out your agents, again, start small, build on top of it, add knowledge, add tools, refine the instructions, as I've mentioned, and then test it, redeploy it. Go through that cycle. Don't build your Ferrari in the first go. Build it in pieces, and then it will all come together nicely. Key performance metrics. As part of Copilot Studio, there's that analytics tab, which you can have a look at. And that would provide you with sessions, resolution rate of your agents that you've built. So it's always good practice to monitor that. And then as part of with generative AI, you have the user satisfaction in your prompt. So users can either go thumbs up or thumbs down. And then there's other quantitative mechanisms, obviously, in which you can get feedback from your users. Cool. I think we've spoken about the progressive enhancement, so I'm not going to jump into that again. Governance framework we did talk about, and I think, or we touched on this rather. I think it's very important to define the ownership of these agents and to manage your Power Platform environment and to plan for your Power Platform environment before you embark on this journey. It's all good and well, users building it in a default environment, but as soon as you want to move things forward and build agents and define groups of people going to be building agents within your organization, this governance framework is key. And as part of that, to meet as a steering committee and to have regular review cycles and inventory checks of what you've built and how it performs across your organization. Right, so licensing, we'll post this in the chat as well. I know we're almost running out of time. The 365 Copilot license, so there's three mechanisms in which you can license Copilot agents. If you do have the Microsoft 365 Copilot license, which is an add-on for users with eligible Microsoft 365 plans, then you do have access to Copilot Studio, and then you can build and publish your agents within your Microsoft 365 tenant. The pay-as-you-go option is, I would say, the most popular and flexible option. It's consumption-based, where organizations only pay for the messages used, and that can be gradually scaled in your environment. And then lastly is the message pack. So these are prepaid bundles of messages that you can buy. I'm not going to go through all of the pricing and that. I mean, I know that Siki has posted a link in the Q&A. But these are sort of prepaid bundles that you can pay. You can deploy them in your environment, and you can monitor them and just top it up as you go along. Great. I think we've got. Can we do the poll quickly? I think we've got 1 minute left. Sorry.
Okay, so the poll will come onto your screens now.
Yeah.
And while you're busy with that, I'm going to, in the essence of time, just say thank you to everyone for joining us today. It's a wrap from our side, and hopefully you're leaving with some fresh ideas and maybe even the itch to start building your own AI sidekick. The recording will be available soon, so you can rewatch it or share it. And I think it's perfect for when you say, wait, what did they say about Agentic AI? And then you can go back to the recording. Our next webinar is on the 10th of September, where we'll be asking a really big question. Is your business ready to let go of legacy? It's going to be a practical people-first session on application modernization, breaking down what it really means to move your business apps into the future. So thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Until next time, keep experimenting, keep innovating, and let's see what else AI can do for us. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.